It's October 1962. Off the coast of Cuba, there's a Soviet submarine. They've been submerged for days and have no idea what's going on the surface. Temperatures were unbearable, reaching 45 degrees Celsius. Above the submarine, US warships were dropping explosive charges into the water. This was to signal to the submarine to surface. Inside the submarine, they assumed the worst, that war had started. On board, they had a nuclear weapon capable of wiping an entire naval fleet. To launch it, all three officers had to give the green light. Two of them agreed, but it was the decision of the third that decided the fate of all humanity. This is the story of how the world almost ended. (1959) Fidel Castro overthrows Fulgencio Batista, the US-backed dictator. The US didn't know what to make of this at first, until Castro started nationalizing American-owned businesses. The US didn't like this, of course, and they responded with sanctions at first, and eventually a full-on trade embargo. Relations collapsed really fast from here. To the US, Cuba was becoming a communist nation right by its borders. The US went as far as trying to overthrow Castro in the Bay of Pigs invasion, which failed. Cuba needed help. They needed protection. Castro believed another invasion was inevitable. He needed a deterrent strong enough that the US wouldn't even dare to invade. The Soviet Union had just what Castro was looking for: nuclear weapons. Nikita Khrushchev took this as an opportunity to place nuclear missiles on Cuba. Why? First was to protect an ally. Second, to balance the missiles America had put in Italy and Turkey, right by the Soviet borders. And third was just to prove that they could do it. All this was done in secret. America had no idea. But on October 14, 1962, a U-2 spy plane flew over Cuba. The photos it took were unmistakable. Those were Soviet missile sites. In Cuba, President John F. Kennedy immediately assembled ExComm, a group of his top advisors. They gave him ideas on how to act, invasion plans, missile strikes, but instead, he decided on a laid-back decision: a naval blockade which he called a quarantine. JFK would go on national television, revealing the missiles to the world. The message was clear: remove the missiles or face the consequences. This got Castro really paranoid. He believed an invasion was imminent. He ordered mobilization of the military, and in a desperate attempt, urged Khrushchev to use the missiles if Cuba was attacked. Khrushchev hesitated. He didn't want to be the guy who ended the world. From there on, Castro was excluded from negotiations. But as days went by, communication between the two sides broke down. Khrushchev sent multiple letters to Kennedy, each with different terms and conditions. One demanded that the US remove their missiles from Turkey. Another offered removal of missiles from Cuba, given that the US promised not to attack Cuba. Things got so bad that a U-2 spy plane was shot down over Cuba. Commanders were literally making decisions with limited info. At this moment, everyone was guessing what the other side's intentions were, and under such conditions, bad decisions were bound to be made. By late October, decision-making shifted from buildings to underwater. The Soviets had deployed 4 nuclear-armed submarines to the Caribbean. One of them was the B-59, and it was in trouble. When the American Navy started dropping charges in the water, they were signaling the submarine to surface. They didn't have malicious intent, but the B-59 crew had been underwater for days in grueling conditions. Batteries were running low, and they had no communication with Moscow, so they panicked. According to protocol, the captain had authority to launch the nuclear torpedo, as long as all 3 senior officers agreed. 2 of them did, under the belief that nuclear war had started. But Vasily Arkhipov refused. He argued that there was no confirmation of war. He knew that launching that torpedo would guarantee global destruction. For hours, the crew argued in unbearable conditions, and Arkhipov didn't budge. His firmness yielded reward, because they ended up not firing the weapon. Who knows where the world could be right now if they had launched that torpedo? Both sides would have been in a nuclear war, and within hours, cities would have been erased just because a submarine crew misread the situation.